this is an interesting realization, which is that you are not your thoughts. We say that I am stressed, but am I stressed? Who am I? I mean, that's a very deep question, who am I? But definitely I am not stressed, but I'm experiencing stress. And realizing that the experiences that you have, or the thoughts that you have, and you are two different things. You are the thinker of the thoughts. The thoughts are different, you are different. Once you are able to establish that subject object relationship, that is super, super powerful. Now, it's probably much easier to say, but it is very, very hard to do, because you know some of those great movies, right? And by some great directors, when you watch that movie, you are fully into the movie. You experience that movie as if you are the hero of this movie. You are experiencing that and completely get lost. And all of a sudden you realize, that's a movie. You come back to reality, right? Or you were in a dream and you think that the dream is the reality. So in our life, when some of these difficult moments or even normal moments, all these experiences that we are having is a much more powerful, multidimensional experience, much better director than any of the movie directors we have ever seen. But what happens is, in a movie, you know that it's a movie going on, but in life, we really don't realize that these experiences which are going on, or which I am experiencing, is not what I am. I'm the thinker of the thoughts. So having that realization that this is an object and I'm the subject, or these are the thoughts and I'm the thinker of the thoughts, this detachment, this ability to come out of it will give you tremendous freedom. And the moment you do that, then those things which makes you stressed, those things which creates a lot of anguish, a lot of anger, now will get dissolved in a lot more ease. I mean, it's not going to happen in a day, but it is a very, very powerful thought to just realize. So for me, this had been slightly about going deeper and understanding things. And I just got curious, and looking at it from an engineering perspective, it makes absolute sense, right? That these thoughts are not me. I mean, if you think that all the SIEM logs and all the alerts that you are getting is yourself. I mean, some of you might think in that way. The moment you get those alerts, etc., you may get very associated with it. But then the SIEM alerts or the logs which you get, those are logs. You don't get emotionally attached to that. But when it comes to these thoughts and our emotions, we get. So you need to look at these thoughts as the log collectors, and incidents which are happening, and you are the person who is experiencing this. So the question is, how do I then get, or how do we get free from this? We are tangled in these emotions. How do we get free from this? So here is this interesting thing. You can get free from it in many different ways. So if you want to get free from stress, one way is that first slide which I had, which is having all those tools and techniques and delegation, better focus, better management, and all these things that will reduce your stress. That's one approach. But imagine a scenario like that, like this, that suppose there is a thorn in your body, and this thorn touches some nerves and you feel extreme pain, and then every time there is a touch, you feel that pain. So what you do is you build a protective layer on top of it and make sure that the thorn doesn't get touched. But then maybe suppose you fall in love, then you realize you can't hug anybody. Then you do something else. You create some more apparatus and build some really interesting technology, and the thorn is there, and you're still able to do everything that you want in your life. Now the interesting thing is, you may think, okay, I got the freedom from the thorn, but if you look deeper, it's the thorn which is completely designing your life. It has completely changed the way you do things. So there are these fears in our mind. There are these emotions, deep beliefs in our mind, which are actually driving our life completely, and we don't realize it. So if you look at the world from the perspective of fear, insecurity, then the way you will design life will be very different. So the question is, how do you then come out of this fear? How do you remove that thorn? So the way to do that is something. This is, I'll kind of steal a story from Buddha. So I don't know if I would tell you this story perfectly or not, but I'll make an attempt. So Buddha, before getting enlightened, there is this story that the demon called Mara came and tried to get Buddha defocused with all these different kinds of emotions. So Buddha had to defeat that, and then he eventually obviously got enlightened. And then interestingly, Mara used to come back time and again trying to again attack him. So Buddha's friend Ananda, he used to time warn Buddha that, see, Mara is coming to attack you. So Buddha did something interesting. Buddha, whenever he saw Mara, he said, yeah, Mara, I can see you. And then he invited Mara to have a tea with him. So this story has the meaning that when you have these negative emotions, etc., one is you can fight, but the other is you can also be at peace and you can invite your negative emotions to have a tea with you. That's the story of inviting Mara to tea. So whatever is the emotion, one option is you try to stop that emotion. Now, if you try to stop that, that's going to control your life. The other is trying to understand that emotion and be at peace with the emotion. You invite those emotions and you observe it. So here is this thing which Vipassana also talks about, or probably Vipassana first talked about, is about observation of yourself. So whenever you are having these emotions, observing what happens to you, what happens to your ears, what happens to your body, what's the temperature like, what's your mind thinking. So just observing that emotion and not trying to stop it. Because here's this thing, the moment you try to stop it, you give a lot of power to that. So if I ask you, stop thinking of a pink elephant, then probably you might have thought of a pink elephant, right? So being at peace with that emotion, understanding that, deconstructing that, you all, those who are cybersecurity professionals, I mean, um, in order to find out a vulnerability, you do fuzzing, reversing, right? So do that fuzzing and reversing and understand that emotion and be at peace with it. And one interesting thing is, a lot of you know that Buddhism talks about suffering, right? Now, here is this interesting thing that actually Buddha never spoke about suffering. And I have a definite proof of that. And that is, he did not know English. So he can't say suffering for sure. So what Buddha spoke about was dukkha instead of suffering. And what does dukkha mean? So dukkha means that in the Aryan language, when you have these bullock carts or carts, you have a wheel, and then there is a hole in the wheel, and you have to align the axle properly. And if the hole is not right in the center, then you have a bumpy ride. So dukkha means not centered. So what Buddha said is that if you are not centered, or when life is not centered, you have a bumpy ride. So what is then being centered? So being centered is having this ability to dissociate yourself from your emotions and see that those emotions are not yourself, having the ability to observe it from this center of consciousness or whatever you call. Now, I'm not a big fan of religion, but if you look at this philosophy is very powerful. Having this ability to deconstruct, reverse engineer your emotions and understanding that your emotions is not you is a kind of freedom from your thorn. So it's not really about If you have a SQL injection, you can have a WAF, but is that the best thing? I mean, if you can't go and fix the code, yes, that's probably the best alternative. But the best thing is to go and fix the code, right? So how do you fix the code here? The way to fix the code is understanding this, having this ability to observe your emotion and understanding that your emotions are not yourself. And here's this thing, understanding how will you be able to kind of be detached and be at peace with this negative emotions? The way is to understand that everything is transient. If you think of all those bad times, all those bad moments at night when you could not sleep because somebody told you something or because something bad happened, if you think back, everything got changed, right? So bad things came, bad things went, good things came, good things went. So everything is transient. So understanding this and reminding yourself every moment, may not be every moment, but every day, whenever you can, that things are transient, that will give you tremendous power to be at peace with these emotions. So I remember there had always been this case. I love traveling a lot, and then whenever we go to these resorts in these beautiful places, I love nature, so we go to all these great natural places. So just the day when we have to check out in the morning, I feel very restless because in the noon I have to leave this place and try to extend that checkout time by an hour, and because I want to cling to it, I don't want to let go this beautiful place because I love it so much, right? And that, what it does is reduces my joy for that entire morning. But once I realized that it's transient, now it's not that I can do it very well, but I at least try to tell my mind, you know what, it's going to be transient. So be at peace with it and just enjoy this. So what is mindfulness? I know a lot of people talk about mindfulness today. All of a sudden, meditation and everything became a very hot topic. So meditation was probably never so popular. If you don't know, some of these meditation apps has become today billion-dollar companies. So what is mindfulness? So mindfulness is nothing but being aware of yourself, being aware of your mind. That's basically what mindfulness is. So, and I spoke about all these things and came to mindfulness so that you understand that aspect. So I'll not spend too much of time here explaining mindfulness, but here is one thing which I want to talk about, that what is not mindfulness. A lot of people have frequently say that mindfulness is being in present. No, mindfulness is not being in present. A kid is always in the present. You give a toy to the kid is very happy. You snatch away the toy from the kid is very sad. The kid is absolutely in the present. The kid is not thinking about, will I get a toy tomorrow? Will I get the chocolate 3 weeks down the line? No. So being in the present is something else. So the kid is absolutely in the present, but not mindful at all. So just being in the present is not equal to being mindful. Being mindful is about being aware of your mind, body, reality. It's like reverse engineering and finding out a vulnerability. Those who have done reverse engineering, you know how it works, right? It's about going deep, understanding, being aware of things. It is more like building a SOC, building a security operations center. You know what a SOC does, right? I mean, you collect all these logs, you correlate, you make inferences. Now, if you don't have these logs, will you be able to predict things? Will you be able to detect things? Absolutely not. So look at mindfulness as your SOC for the mind. First is having this ability to detect these logs. Second is ability to go deep and analyze and do this root cause analysis. So when you think of mindfulness, think of building a SOC, but for your mind.